we wanted to simplify that as much as we could. So the way that we did it was change the structure of it into 3 sections: cover for you, cover for your trip, and cover for your stuff. So again, just trying to explain things really in simple terms.
Today I'm joined by Harry Williams, one of the co-founders of Pluto, a company built around notions of being more of a travel brand, utilising insurance as one means of providing a more holistic, travel-centric service. This is a really exciting episode for me because the guys at Pluto have recently launched their new app, which we'll take a bit of a look at today.
Pluto is a travel startup, and we help millennials make the most of their travels. The way that we do this is providing useful tools that take the pain out of planning for a holiday. So the first product that we launched just over a year ago was hassle-free travel insurance through your phone, and then we're going to plan to launch some more later this year.
Yeah, and it's interesting to note that this is not, as we said, like touched on in the intro, this is not specific to finance, but you're planning to offer a wide range of services that provide, I guess, a more holistic approach to travel.
Yeah.
So in that sense, you must have a very changing landscape in terms of your competitors. But sort of as it currently stands, who do you sort of look up to or look across at as your competitors, and what sort of makes you stand out from them?
Yeah. So there's 3 main groups of competitors when we look more focused on the insurance proposition. So there's the traditional insurers, so anyone from post office to AXA to Insure and Go.
Yeah.
There's a couple of insurtech players. There's not as many in the travel insurance space, but sure. Cover being one example.
Yeah.
And then banks to an extent as well. So banks who offer packaged current accounts or credit cards that will include travel insurance as part of that.
Cool.
And the way that we different is, when we look specifically at the product and the travel insurance product, it's about jargon-free policies with transparent pricing, being able to make a claim in less than 10 minutes, and then we've recently released our mobile app, where at the moment it's just a really easy way to view your cover and also get human help. And then over time we're going to be releasing more and more travel services. And I guess that big differentiator that we've touched on a little bit from a brand point of view is we very much see ourselves as a travel brand. So we're approaching the problem in a different way. We're travel lovers ourselves. We've built Pluto for travel lovers, and it's all about helping people make the most of their travels, not just about making money.
Yeah, for sure. And that must have an effect on the way that you sort of look and review other products, in the market. Like, how do you're not necessarily just looking at cover, for example, and you'd be looking at other. How would you then compete with, or look for competitor analysis amongst others within the travel specific industry?
Yeah, so I guess there's a couple of ways to look at it. From one point of view, we look at a lot kind of like the experiential competitors, because for the market that we're going after, millennials, if you had to kind of give it a broad term, they're so used to interacting with such a new range of digital challenger brands are a lot bit bigger, so they probably bank with Monzo or Revolut or Starling, and they're used to using apps to order food and to order taxis. It's not new stuff, and so really our ambition is to build an experience that's on par with those. So when we think about competitors, it's not just competitors in terms of functionality, but it's also competitors in terms of experiential competitors.
Okay. Cool.
And then in the broader travel space, it's an interesting area because it's quite fragmented. When we talk to customers, they'll go to, they might go to booking.com to book a hotel, and then Skyscanner to book their flights, and maybe Airbnb for their hotel, and somewhere else for some content.
Yeah.
But there's no single place that brings it all together, which that's the bigger ambition for us, to be that go-to travel brand that helps you all the way through the journey of planning for a trip.
That sounds very, very cool. Very very big ambition there, which is really cool. So what do you specifically do at Pluto, and how would you say you've got to this point?
So as a co-founder, it's a pretty broad role. So at a very high level, I'm responsible for making sure that every customer has a great experience with Pluto. So when I break that down, it's really product, design, brand and marketing. So we're a very small team. There's only 2 co-founders who've been full-time working on it for the last year last week we brought on our first employee.
Oh, yeah.
And then we've got two more joining in the next couple of weeks. But up until then, it's been quite lean. You know, we've got an offshore development team over in Ukraine who we work with for the development side of things, and then you know, I'll do a lot of the whole journey from, you know, looking at the initial competitor landscape and talking to customers and understanding where the problems are, coming up with the concepts, validating those, you know, doing the UX design, and then, you know, I tend to work with freelancers for some of the more polished UI stuff and the brand design. And then, like I say, we're going to be growing that team and bringing that talent in-house in the next few weeks.
That's exciting.
So my background, where I spent the past few years before joining or going full-time on Pluto, it was at Fjord. So design agency who are very, you know, they're all about human-centered design. So that's probably been the most important kind of tool for us in a way. It's, you know, it seems quite logical when you break it down. You figure out who your audience is, you go and ask them what their problems are, you then try and solve that problem, then you go back to them and see if you've solved the problem or not, and just refine it like that. So we always take a very human-centered kind of design perspective, you know, running a lot of research, talking to customers, talking to people in the broader market, and just getting as much insight as possible to drive the product.
Okay, and how does that generally work for you? So in terms of, how many people do you speak to and how many is enough?
So we tend to do rounds of research of about between 8 and 12 people at a time.
Oh, yeah.
And we find that gives us, you know, we start to see patterns in what we're hearing, and then sometimes we might back that up with some quant as well. But usually we'll, you know, if we're releasing a new feature or anything like that, we'll do that 8 to 12, talk to those people, see what patterns are emerging, and that tends to be enough to kind of give us an indication of what we need to do.
Sounds very sensible. So how did you sort of kick off the building process? When did this start for you, sort of from an actual product development perspective?
So it started for us about 18 months ago.
Okay.
So yeah, summer before last. And
it just started as a little side thing for
yeah,
you guys?
So at the time we were working part-time on it, you know, just evenings and weekends.
Yeah.
And so it was, just finding time where you can. But the process that we went through was, we looked at what the problems were out there within the industry, which is a case of doing an analysis of other products. And if you look at most journeys of purchasing insurance, it doesn't take a genius to realise what those problems are. But then, you know, starting to actually talk to the customers and really understanding from more of a functional level what are the problems, but then from more of a emotional level, you know, there's some big issues around trust.
Right.
That consumers don't trust the insurer, that even if you need to make a claim, they think they're going to do anything possible to prevent you from making that claim.
Sure.
So we're trying to understand what are the more functional and then the more emotional needs that we need to be solving. And then just from there, you know, just start with concepting. So coming up with a few different ways for actually purchasing the insurance, and then building a prototype, just very simple prototype, putting it in front of people, getting their reactions to it. And then once we got to a point where, you know, we did a few rounds of that because it was so blank piece of paper effectively. Once we were at a stage where we felt confident that we were in the right space with the product, we then started building it.
Okay. What was the decision like for, you know, why did you go after the app like now as that particular point of time? And then what does that give you that, you know, being online wouldn't, for example?
Yeah, so I guess firstly the reason why we didn't start with an app was what we found from our research was that when people are looking to get travel insurance, they want to get a quote as quickly as possible. You know, we have so many apps on our phone that they can't justify downloading an app just to get a quote. And a new player in the market, we're still at that stage and still are really of building the trust of why should they download our app. So it was very web focused for the quote journey, and still is and still will be, so that people can get their quote as quickly as possible. But then what we found was, you know, we've got an ambition to provide an end-to-end experience all the way from, you know, deciding where you want to go on holiday up until, you know, if something does go wrong, that we want to be there for you. And the purchasing of the travel insurance, or if you need to make a claim, is a very small part of that entire journey. So once someone had purchased their travel insurance, our relationship with them broke down.
Yeah.
So the app is a way to engage people after the purchase process, and over time we're going to release more and more travel-focused features to deliver value in different ways to solve different problems.
Yeah.
So we can just build a relationship across that entire journey of the travel planning experience.
Sure. And like, I guess baking in stickiness into that product becomes a really big part of what you then do. I guess when it starts, it's a process of delivering that like initial quote, and then that's the big thing you're going for, and then now it's how do you develop long-standing kind of engagement and relationships with these users. So I guess we'd probably well, first of all, before we kick off that, what's the general response been? How are people coming to the product, and what have people been saying so far?
Yeah, so general response is very good.
Yeah.
Very, we've been blown away really in terms of the reviews and things that we've been having.
Yeah.
On our Trustpilot page, we've got over 125-star reviews. We're number 2nd in the travel insurance category.
Nice.
Which since we've only been around for a year.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. And people are using words to describe us in ways that will have never expected. And saying it themselves, like a few reviews saying, I'll have never have thought to describe insurance as fun and slick, but it really is. So seeing those types of reviews is really brilliant. And then from a more, when we look at the, understand where our customers are actually coming from, a lot of customers coming in through referrals again, so that word of mouth mechanism.
Yeah.
How often do you go down the pub with your mates and chat about travel insurance, right? So if we're able to get people to talk about travel insurance that they're buying and recommending that to their friend, then it feels like we're doing some good stuff. Yeah,
for sure, definitely. I guess the first thing we should then look at now is the quoting mechanism, which we'll kick off now. So this is the website version, as we've just said there, and this is where we'll deliver the initial sort of quote. You can see a really nice sort of overview of the different sort of feature items, and then that Trustpilot mechanism that you mentioned earlier, like a really smart way of being able to surface that sort of reviewing functionality. We've got an initial look at the cover, and then we'll start to go through, I guess, a KYC style process. When you're thinking about building this sort of as an experience, what were requirements for you, and what was what are the things you were looking for specifically to include? How much of it was determined by the what is required of you, and so on, and how much could you be sort of playful with it?
Yeah, so there's some clear things that we wanted to avoid that we knew that people didn't like from the traditional travel insurance. So one example is, often when you go and get a quote for insurance, you've got to put your email address right at the beginning, and then you might get your quote emailed to you or something like that. Okay. So we wanted to make sure that we wanted to capture as minimal information as possible for people to get their quote. Yeah. And then the other big thing really was just explaining everything in plain English. Yeah. That's one of the big issues with insurance, that people don't understand what it is that they're buying or what they're covered for, and that's because there's so much jargon. So stripping out that jargon, explaining everything in really simple terms, and then the pricing mechanism as well. So again, with that complexity, it's hard to know how changes to your cover is going to impact your price. So we wanted that to be super transparent, whereby if you made a change to your cover, then you see how that price updates in real time.
Yeah, and we can see that at the top of the page here, like in that circle, and the progress indicator at the top there, walking you through where you are. And these are like really neat little cues, which we'd always recommend that people go and use, is the ability to keep your user up to date with where they are in the journey at any one time, and how that's impacting the way that their product is behaving. So that's a really, really smart example of that in action. So the first thing to note about that sort of whole thing was that you start off with a really kind of nicely designed landing page experience, and you've got a good opportunity there to indicate the sort of the key learnings from or the key features that are available in the product, but then also some of the kind of partnerships that you've got working with you as well. So that must have been a big piece of work, like just doing that big sort of website design and things like that. Was that the first thing you approached when you were looking at this, or how did you sort of tackle that? What order was the prioritizing?
Yeah, so I mean, when we started out about 18 months ago, there was, and we knew when it comes to insurance, we needed an underwriter to work with.
Yeah.
We needed to be regulated by the FCA, and then it came to the product. So our expertise and experience is in building the product. So we had confidence in that, and so the first two big problems that we had to tackle were those: the underwriter and the regulation.
Yeah.
So with the regulation, we went through the FCA sandbox.
Oh, cool.
Which meant that we could fast track that process effectively of getting regulated a lot quicker.
Yeah.
So that was a brilliant process. They're really great over there.
I've heard very positive things about people who go through the regulator in terms of saying that they make you think about things more rigorously in the way that you're doing sort of a lot of the content requirements or the data gathering exercises that you're doing. They've always said that it's been a really positive experience because of the rigor it attaches to the processes. So you bought yourself in a few sort of that specialist advice and sort of. Is that now part of your sort of core leadership team? You've got a specialist underwriter involved, or?
No, so we've partnered with Zurich.
Okay.
So they're our underwriter effectively. So we're a broker for them. We're an insurance intermediary.
Okay.
So we work quite closely with them, especially early days when we're building the product. So we came in through an innovation scheme that they had.
Okay.
So they had dedicated resource who would help us with a lot of that compliance work, and then now we have freelance support in terms of compliance, so that when we're making big changes to the product, then we can make sure that we're all compliant. But it's not something that we need as a full-time resource at our size at the moment.
How does that sort of like payment process work within this quote gathering exercise? Is that sort of like a request sent out to Zurich, or do you gather the information yourself within the platform?
Yeah, so we do it all ourselves.
Okay.
Yeah, so we built the back-end pricing model effectively. So we work with Zurich to create it so that based on what the changes were to the limit, there'll be the certain impact on pricing. So the product that we sell, the Zurich product that we sell, is a custom policy for Pluto and for Pluto's audience. So we had that initial work to build that pricing model. And then now it means that we can do it all on our side, and as the customer goes through and changes their limits, that price updates in real time, and at the end of the process we just create that policy, and then we can then pass that over to Zurich effectively,
like a handoff.
Yeah,
cool. So one of the things we noticed when we were looking through it was you're relying on a few different sort of third parties to get stuff, certain stuff done. How have you found like the experience of using those external services and bringing them into the product? And then any other things that you're working with which maybe the user doesn't see so much, that would be interesting for our sort of audience? Yeah,
so I mean, Trustpilot, to begin with, we knew we had to, being such a small company and operating in a serious space, the finance space. Yeah. You hear over and over again how important those customer reviews are. Definitely. And you want that kind of third-party stamp of approval. You don't want to just give a load of reviews on a random site that nobody's heard about. So it made sense to go with Trustpilot, and they have a lot of reusable components that you can drop onto the site that are dynamics. Your score updates in real time and all that type of stuff. So that that's super useful, very easy to implement into the product. Sure. With Intercom, Intercom it's evolved over time and become more and more important for us, which is kind of unexpected in a way. So to begin with, we just thought, we want to be able to offer customer support. And the tool that we see being used frequently and is very slick experience was Intercom. And what we've seen over time is that people really value being able to so quickly and easily chat to a human. Yeah. It's just, I guess people expect that now with digital brands, and and then when you compare that to traditional insurers, and it can, you might have to wait on a phone or something to talk to someone. So now more and more that's become a central part of our proposition. And, with Intercom as well, we've got it on the website, but then also within the mobile app, it drives the chat experience within there. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's been, hugely valuable for us.
What were the sort of key things that they were looking for, or that Pluto was looking for when it came to sort of creating this tailored policy? What were the key non-negotiables?
So when we would speak to customers and just get them to tell us what were the most important parts of the insurance policy for them, and what were the most confusing parts of the policy for them. So that was the initial driver. So we put gadget cover up front because a lot of people assume that a normal policy includes your gadgets as part of your baggage,
Right.
when in reality most of them don't.
Yeah.
So we wanted to bring that front and centre and let people know, stuff like excess. People either don't understand what it is or they hate it. So we wanted to make that really easy to understand, but then easy to remove or change based on what you wanted. So that was kind of the thought process throughout designing that product experience, and then from a broader policy point of view, we wanted to again just simplify it as much as possible. A policy summary, there is a lot of information in there, so it's not like we can just provide a 2-page document, because also that would be counterproductive. But we wanted to simplify that as much as we could. So the way that we did it was change the structure of it into 3 sections: cover for you, cover for your trip, and cover for your stuff. So again, just trying to explain things really in simple terms, and then just breaking down what was included in each of those things.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds. So a lot of things are focused around the actual, the kind of the presentation layer and sort of how that information is delivered to the user in that process. And I guess that's nicely continued on within the app. Cool. We'll check that out now then. So here we go. We've got these apps onboarding experience now.
Yeah.
Starts off with these really nice cards and really sweetly designed. And then we've got this indication there that there's a health element to what's going on. We can sort of pop our email in there to start, and then I guess this is going to sort of take us out to a magic link or some sort of mechanism for verifying. Yeah, so the magic link, and then we do that, and here we go. Very cool. So when you're doing this specifically, get the notifications up. I guess that's quite a big part of the offering then, will it be?
Yeah, over time it'll develop and we'll use them in more and more ways.
Yeah, okay. And then we've got our cover here on display with the details, the specifics of how much is there and what's not included in that. Bit of intergalactic travels, not yet anyway, I hear, unless you're getting into bed with Elon Musk at some point. And then on the help section, this is one thing you alluded to earlier, which is the big thing is you want to make use of that sort of chat interface, make it really easy to talk to someone, and from there sort of a settings overview, bit of detailing there specific to our policy. So that's the sort of the rundown of the app as it currently stands. First, the designs sort of, are you using one designer for these sort of like the website and for the app? Like how and is there a consistency thing to think about there when the designing is going on, or sort of how does that work? It's really smartly designed, by the way. That intro carousel was really neat, the way those cards were used.
Thank you very much. I mean, I guess so. We did use different designers for the website and for the app. That was just the nature of working with freelance designers. It's difficult to have that continuity. I guess where the most consistency comes from is I'm obviously a core part of designing of all of those journeys. So I was able to bring an element of that consistency. But, there is just also the very real nature that as a young company, and we're constantly evolving our product and our design style and our brand, that at the moment there probably is a bit more inconsistency that I'd like to see between the purchase journey and the mobile app. But especially as we're bringing in a new head of design next week.
Oh, cool.
And we're going to be doing some refining our brand a little bit, that it'll be important to bring the consistency across all of the touch points that we have.
And it's a great starting point. I'm sure they'll be really happy with what they're picking up. So we touched right at the beginning there about a relationship with sort of the Babylon part of the offering. How does that come about for you? How do you establish that as a thing going forward? And what are the technical requirements of using a service like Babylon within or embedding it within the app? Do you link out to them, or is there a form sort of process within, or what will that be?
So I guess in terms of how it came about, again, it was just, we knew that one of the biggest pain points when it came to insurance, and particularly when things going wrong, was if you became ill. You've been looking forward to this holiday for months, you get a terrible stomach bug or something like that, or something worse, and you're in a third world country, and the thought of going down to a local clinic is going to make the whole experience even worse. And so we're familiar with Babylon and their offering, and so we thought if we could offer that to our customers for free, so that instead of having to go down to a local clinic, they can just talk to a doctor through the phone, then that would be a lovely feature to be able to offer people. So that was the reason behind it, and then we approached Babylon, and the way that we've implemented it at the moment is just actually very, very simple and a little bit. It's an experiment to begin with, so it's a little bit simple and dirty in the back end. So how it works is the user will fill out a short form. So we'll just ask them what's wrong and then where they are. So we only offer the feature if you're abroad, and you can only use the feature if you've got a valid policy. So we check those things, and then so long as you've got a valid policy and you've told us a little bit about what's wrong, we then give you a special code, and then the user has to then go and download the Babylon app, and then they sign up there, they input their code, and then they've effectively got a credit to speak to a GP, which is worth about £50. So it's a nice feature.
I guess now we want to talk about this actual tone of voice that's happening throughout, and then what did you lean on for the specifics of that? Do you have a style guide? How do you implement that sort of thing? And for example, I think we found quite a lot of value from the Monzo tone of voice guide. I think a few people have referenced it before when they're talking about sort of implementing an easy tone of voice.
Yeah. So the way we approach it, to summarise it, would be, as in summarise the tone of voice, would kind of be like a trusted friend. So a friend in the sense that we go for a very conversational and fun tone of voice, because we're seeing that resonate well. Monzo is a good example, and like we spoke about, there's so much complexity with insurance. We wanted to be able to explain things in very simple terms, almost like pub chat. If you're down the pub with your mates, how would you explain something to them? So that's how the very conversational approach comes from. But then also, we do need to build trust. We touch on that a lot, and it's a financial product, so we can't be too, funny and over the top and throw emojis everywhere. There's an element of refinement to it as well. So that's kind of the tone of voice in a nutshell. And I guess how that process
of balance. That.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very fine balance, and I think you see some people do a terrible job of it. And I don't know. I think we're always learning and refining it, but it feels like it's in a good place at the moment. And the process for defining it is the luxury of being a small team. Is it can be quite organic. We have that ambition for this is the tone of voice that we want to talk in.
Sure. And
those were the principles that I spoke through. At a very high level, we'll just always try and make sure that we stick to those. And then now we're at the stage where, as the team grows and more people are going to be handling more of the content creation, then we've started to put together a bit more of a structure, more of a rigorous tone of voice guidelines. So that's something that we do have now.
Cool.
But it's always something evolving. But it's creating a fun and playful and trusted personality is a core part of what we're doing. So tone of voice is essential to that.
Very good. Okay. So the referral policy, you've put that right at the front. As that's the big thing that's going on. Is you want to drive these sort of, I guess that's the big sort of the thing you're depending on as the main vehicle sort of engine of growth for now, is you want referrals first and foremost, right?
Yeah. So there's two things from the product perspective. There's the referrals and then the group policies as well. So with the referrals, it's obviously great for us. If people tell their friends about Pluto, then it helps us grow a lot more effectively.
Sure.
But we've also put a decent incentive in there as well. So we know that most of our audience will travel with people. They'll travel with friends. They'll travel with family. So they can get £10, instantly refunded if they refer someone, and their friend gets £10 off as well. So I think it's a mutually beneficial mechanism that that does really well for us. And the group policies is something that we released about 6 months ago, and to the similar vein, particularly for partners. So when you're going away with your partner and you want to buy travel insurance together, we just make it really easy to add someone else onto your policy. So that's really convenient for them. They save the money as well, and then it's great for us as well, because for every one customer that we acquire, then everyone else that they add on to their policy, you know, reduces our acquisition costs based on the number of people.
For sure, definitely. And that network effect working nicely for you.
Yeah.
So is this kind of, where are we looking at geographically for the product at the minute? Do you have certain, are you limited in any way to a Europe, or do you worldwide? How does that work?
Yeah, so it's worldwide cover.
Okay.
So we have our annual policies that is Europe or worldwide, and then you can get a single trip policy for, you know, for any destination.
Yeah.
We have a few limitations on who we can cover at the moment. So again, just the nature of launching quickly and being small.
Yeah.
We can't cover everyone, so we decided to focus on just covering 18 to 46-year-olds, because that meant we can get the product out in the market a lot quicker. You know, that's our target audience.
For sure.
And then there's some limitations around, you know, we can only serve UK residents, which again is the kind of regulation limitation. Yeah. And, you know, we've got limits on what the pre-existing conditions are that we can serve. But, you know, if we tried to release a product that served everybody from day one, then we'd still be building it, right? So the ambition is definitely to broaden out that cover. But we had to start somewhere. Yeah,
of course. Yeah. And I think it's generally considered bad advice whenever anyone says, like, spread your product as wide as possible. There was I think it's a book called Crossing the Chasm, which talks about, you know, finding your beachhead and really like focusing in on that specific thing. We found a lot of value in that in terms of our like cohorting exercises and figuring out what sort of user we should be analyzing and working on, and then it gives a whole lot of focus to the actual product development from our end. So in the terms of submitting a claim, it starts off with these series of like canned responses to, I guess, your sort of the user's sort of intercom message or whatever method they've used to submit their claim. Those responses, I guess, again, back to that tone of voice thing, is this an insurer-based sort of set of responses, or is this from you specifically?
So it is from us.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not canned responses, but particularly when you start to get to stuff like claims, there's just obviously a very fine balance of explaining things in a compliant way.
Yeah, sure.
And being super clear, and then, you know, trying to inject. Again, it's that balance of the tone of voice and personality. You know, someone's in a, you know, when you're making a claim, you're in emotionally, you know, vulnerable place effectively. If something's gone wrong.
Yeah.
You know, throwing in an emoji or trying to make it too fun isn't really on point with, you know, their current emotional mindset. So we intentionally keep them very simple and very clear, so that they just understand what it is that they're claiming for.
Very good. Cool. So just to round things off, anything you're particularly excited about working on in the product for the next year, and what's going to go on in the future for you guys? What's next?
Yeah. So the big thing that we're starting to kick off now is the design and build for our, you know, the second tool. So it's going to be purely a travel focused proposition, so related to the insurance in some aspects, but a standalone proposition in itself.
Okay.
And it's in the travel planning space, so it will be a tool that makes it really easy to create and share travel plans with your friends. So you'll be able to create what we're calling a pin board for a trip. You then invite other people to that pin board. You can then save, you know, link your flight information to it and your hotel information, get flight updates and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You'll be able to save links from anywhere else on the web. So if you find, you know, some inspiration on Instagram, you can save that to a pin board.
Cool.
And if you find an article on a website, then you can save that to your pin board. So it really becomes your go-to hub to organise all of your travel planning. So that's a big exciting product for us that's going to really start to mean we can deliver more value across that end-to-end travel experience that we're talking about.
Yeah, sure.
So
any further developments to the insurance side of things from your end?
Yeah, so we're going to be releasing more stuff into the app. So we will have the purchase experience within the app, more focused on renewals. So we're coming up to that stage now where people have had their annual policies for over a year.
Yeah.
So making it really easy to renew the policy, making it really easy to amend a policy as well. So again, through Intercom, we have lots of people messaging us, can I add a gadget? Can I add cover for Bali? So at the moment we handle that ourselves kind of in the back end, whereas we're going to build a flow so that you can really easily amend your policy. And then the final feature that is going to be a bit of a hero feature is a flight delay feature. So if your flight's delayed by more than 2 hours, then you can get a free lounge pass or you can get £25 cash.
That's great, really cool. Awesome. Well, thanks very much for coming and sharing all that. It's been really helpful. That's it for today. Thank you for tuning in. Stop by next week when we'll be speaking to Oval, the investment product. If you want to see more of 11FS Pulse, head over to pulse.11fs.com where you can request a demo. If you've got any questions about the journey or the products, or want to talk to us about a journey that we can include on our platform or on this show, hit us up on @11FS Pulse on Twitter or pulse@11fs.com. Harry, if anyone wants to find out more about you, where should they go?
Head to our website, so pluto.travel, and then you'll find everything on there.
We'll find you lurking on Twitter anywhere.
Yeah, Twitter is Pluto and then 2_travel.
Very good. All right, thanks. We'll see you next week. Bye.